Good morning and welcome to the Department of State. We have Secretary of State Hillary Clinton here along with our Special Envoy George Mitchell to tell you about the most recent developments in our pursuit of Middle East peace. The Secretary will begin with a brief statement. George Mitchell will stay behind to answer your questions. And we are joined today by your colleagues in the White House press corps up in Martha's Vineyard, and they'll be sharing the Q&A duties with you. But we'll start with Secretary Clinton.
I don't like that. They're in Martha's Vineyard.
I will appoint a negotiator to deal with that. Since the beginning of this administration, we have worked with the Israelis and Palestinians and our international partners to advance the cause of comprehensive peace in the Middle East, including a two-state solution which ensures security and dignity for Israelis and Palestinians. The President and I are encouraged by the leadership of Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Abbas, and fully share their commitment to the goal of two states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. After proximity talks and consultations with both sides, on behalf of the United States government, I've invited Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Palestinian Authority President Abbas to meet on September 2nd in Washington, D.C., to relaunch direct negotiations to resolve all final status issues, which we believe can be completed within 1 year. President Obama has invited President Mubarak of Egypt and King Abdullah of Jordan to attend in view of their critical role in this effort. Their continued leadership and commitment to peace will be essential to our success. The President will hold bilateral meetings with the four leaders, followed by a dinner with them on September 1st. The Quartet representative, Tony Blair, has also been invited to the dinner in view of his important work to help Palestinians build the institutions of their future state, an effort which must continue during the negotiations. I've invited Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Abbas to join me here at the State Department on the following day for a trilateral meeting to relaunch direct negotiations. As we move forward, it is important that actions by all sides help to advance our effort, not hinder it. There have been difficulties in the past. There will be difficulties ahead. Without a doubt, we will hit more obstacles. The enemies of peace will keep trying to defeat us and to derail these talks. But I ask the parties to persevere, to keep moving forward even through difficult times, and to continue working to achieve a just and lasting peace in the region. As we have said before, these negotiations should take place without preconditions and be characterized by good faith and a commitment to their success, which will bring a better future to all of the people of the region. George? Thank you all.
Madam Secretary, are you traveling to Pakistan as far as flood is concerned, madam? Thank you, madam.
I'll be pleased to respond to any of your questions.
As tempted as I am to ask you about Roger Clemens, I'd rather ask, or PJ, perhaps.
I predicted that.
Can you tell us what was the turning point here? What was it that got that overcame the final snags to get them to come back to direct talks?
We believe it's the recognition by the parties themselves, by their leaders, Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Abbas, that the best outcome is an agreement which results in two states living side by side in peace and security. And that the only way that can be achieved is through direct negotiations between the parties, in which the United States will be an active and sustained participant, and with the full support of our many friends and allies around the world, including, of course, specifically the quartet.
But what was it that got them to? I mean, you've been trying to do this for months now, and
Yes.
and why? So why? How is it that today you've gotten to this point where, as 3 days ago, you weren't at this point?
I think it's the cumulative result of the efforts made over that time and the recognition by the parties that this is the right time. We will be active participants, and there is broad support, as you know, by members of the quartet and others around the world. But in the end, these decisions will be made by the parties themselves.
Senator Mitchell,
Why don't I let PJ?
could you talk about the sequencing of the talks? Will they discuss territory, refugees, or Jerusalem first, or will this all be in parallel?
All permanent status issues will be on the table. It will be for the parties themselves to decide the manner by which they should be addressed.
Senator Mitchell.
Yes, Madam Secretary mentioned without doubt there will be more obstacles. What will these obstacles be? What are the main sticking points that are going to be going forward?
We are all well aware that there remains mistrust between the parties, a residue of hostility developed over many decades of conflict, many previous efforts that have been made to resolve the conflict that have not succeeded, all of which takes a very heavy toll on both societies and their leaders. In addition, we all know that, as with all societies, there are differences of opinion on both sides on how best to proceed, and as a result, this conflict has remained unresolved over many decades and through many efforts. We don't expect all of those differences to disappear when talks begin. Indeed, we expect that they will be presented, debated, discussed, and that differences are not going to be resolved immediately. But we do believe that peace in the Middle East, comprehensive peace, including but not limited to an end to the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians, is very much in the interests of Israelis and Palestinians, of all people in the region. It's in the national security interest of the United States, and therefore we are going to continue to pursue that objective with patience, perseverance, and determination. We know there will be difficulties. We know, as the Secretary said, there will be obstacles, but we're going to proceed, as I said, with patience, perseverance, and determination.
Senator Mitchell, sir, the Palestinians, the Israelis, and the United States have been down that road many times before. What is, in your opinion, sir, this time around that engenders or should engender hope and optimism to get these talks into its intended end? And what kind of incentive did you offer President Abbas to entice him into the direct talks?
I don't want to repeat everything I said in response to the prior question, but I will say that I believe that it is very much in the interest of people in both societies that there be an end to this conflict, enabling both to live in peace and security, and I believe that their leaders believe and understand that, and therefore, notwithstanding the many difficulties that they face, and we recognize those difficulties, this is the best course for them. On the question of past efforts and failing and succeeding, I'll return, if I might, to my experience in Northern Ireland. I chaired 3 separate sets of discussions in Northern Ireland, spanning a period overall of 5 years. The main negotiation lasted for 22 months. During that time, the effort was repeatedly branded a failure. I was asked at least dozens, perhaps hundreds of times when I was leaving because the effort had failed. And of course, if the objective is to achieve a peace agreement, until you do achieve one, you have failed to do so. In a sense, in Northern Ireland, we had about 700 days of failure and 1 day of success. And we approach this task with the same determination to succeed, notwithstanding the difficulties and notwithstanding the inability to get a final result so far, including past efforts. But past efforts at peace that did not succeed cannot deter us from trying again, because the cause is noble and just and right for all concerned.
Let's take Michelle and then Kirit, and then we'll go up to Martha's Vineyard and come back. Michelle?
I wanted to get a sense of this timeline, this 12 months that the Secretary talked about. Do you see that as a deadline, or is that, or is it looser than that? And also, just following up on this other question, I mean, what makes this peace process any different from all other peace processes?
We will only know the answer to your second question when it is completed. But I believe that, as I said in response to the previous question, that the cause is so important, so right, so just, that our continued effort is the right thing to do. And we are going to pursue it with determination. I believe that the two leaders themselves, President Abbas and Prime Minister Netanyahu, are sincere and serious and believe that it can be done, and we will do everything humanly possible to help them see that it is done. With respect to your first question, Prime Minister Netanyahu said in a public appearance in this country on his most recent visit to Washington that he believed it could be done within a year. President Abbas has expressed similar sentiments to me, and I hold strongly to that belief, having now been involved for some time in the region. So we believe it can be done within a year, and that is our objective.
But it's not a deadline then?
Kirit, one more, and then we'll go up to Martha's Vineyard.
It took you about 9 months to get to the point where these guys are willing to sit down and talk to each other. What makes you think that you can get them to agree to peace in 1 year? At what point during this process is the U.S. willing to put its own ideas on the table to help move this forward? And after the initial set of talks here in D.C., where do you expect the talks to take place?
I'll take your questions in reverse order. One of the subjects to be discussed in the meeting on September 1st and 2nd, and also in preparatory meetings that have been occurring on a regular basis and will continue between now and then, will be the timing and location of subsequent meetings. And we certainly expect some of those meetings to occur in the region. With respect to the timing and nature, how long it took to get here and how long it will take to get in, I don't think one is a necessary determinant of the other. I liken it to the first time I owned a house and had it painted. It took the painters seemingly forever to prime the building and the walls. I kept asking myself, when are they going to start painting? Paying by the hour, and you want some progress. And after this seemingly endless priming, well, they painted it very quickly. Now, I don't want to suggest 1 year is quickly, but I don't think that events leading up to the negotiations are themselves decisive in terms of the negotiations themselves. We believe that the statements by the Prime Minister regarding within 1 year are credible and appropriate. We believe that President Abbas shares a similar view, as do we, and that's what we're going to pursue.
And at what point does the U.S. put its own ideas on the table in this process?
We will be active